Mary, if you can read the public notice for the first hearing, the request for determination, 47 Grafton Road.
Yes, just a second. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act that the Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public hearing on Wednesday, July 26, 2023 at 7 p.m. Request for determination of applicability filed by Timothy McPherson for the paving of an existing driveway at 45 and 47 Grafton Road, Upton, Mass.
Okay, so Mr. McPherson, can you please explain what your project is?
Yes. So we just bought 47 Grafton earlier this year, and it currently has a dirt driveway leading up to the house that's about 700 feet long, and it's in pretty rough condition right now. So we would like to get it paved and to make it easier to maintain in winter and that kind of thing. So part of the driveway is on our neighbor's property, 45 Grafton Road, as you can see there. And they're aware of our plans here, and we provide them a copy of the form. And we're planning to pave the whole thing from the road up to the house.
Okay, Mary, what are your comments?
All right, the plan I'm showing here is very old plans from when the house was originally constructed in their original wetland filing. You can see at the time there were 2 wetland crossings here and here, and they did replication. There is a certificate of compliance for this, but just that gives you an idea of where the wetlands are in relationship to the driveway. And I did a review of this. And I agree that I drove up the driveway, not really intending to go all the way up, but I didn't want to block it. And I agree it was very bumpy. And I'm sure you'll be happy to have it paved. And I just had a few questions. Because it's so rough, are they going to have to do any grading to kind of get it smooth, especially in the top area? Do you know?
Yes, they did discuss that they would remove the large rocks and put down a surface that was smoother. So yeah. Yes, there will be some grade. I think they said how deep they were going to go with the grading, but I can see if I can find that. Sorry, it'll take me a second. I gotta look this up in my email. But we're not planning to alter any of the current wetland crossings that are under there that were shown on the diagram there.
Yeah, and the other thing I noted, it seems like, I mean, you've got there's some kind of drainage ditches along the edge. Are they planning on doing anything with those, just leaving them?
No, nothing's planned to be done to those.
Okay. Yeah, so it just seemed to me like you would want to put up some silt fence for most of the way where the wetland crossings are, just to keep, protect the wetlands. And I'm a little concerned about the drainage. They have a drainage, though they have a nice plan here. Let's see if this was it. Yeah, lovely. So they're paving the whole thing in a nice big area. And so the water's going to come down there, and it's going to, the wetland areas are right in here. So I think it's going to end up going both ways toward the wetlands. And I guess it's just, I'm sure your contractor's aware of that, but just to be aware of how they direct the drainage and make sure that it doesn't end up being, a lot of washout into the wetlands.
I see. Okay. So it should kind of come down the driveway rather than coming into spilling to the side, you're saying?
Yeah. Well, they should be thinking about the drainage, I think.
I see. Okay.
Maybe they may end up, it's something you can monitor, but ends up washing out. You may end up having to put a little bit of riprap in or something. I don't know. At the moment, it looks like everything's kind of under control.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, they said I found it. They're gonna dig down 4 inches at most, is what they said, and then build that back up with a more solid base.
Yeah, so my recommendations were to issue a negative determination with the silt fence, etc., and protections, and to watch for the drainage for sure on this one.
Okay, and negative determination means we don't
That
need
means
additional
that,
approval.
yes, that would be my recommendation. The commission members may have other.
I see.
Comments.
Thank you. Just making sure I understand what that means. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, that means that you can go ahead with the work without filing a notice of intent.
I understand. Thank you.
Do you have any questions or comments from members of the commission?
This is Dave. I was just wondering if, 4 inches of material might end up to be quite a bit, given the length of the driveway. Is there any way we could just put in something in there about any material graded on site, excavated on site, that make sure that doesn't end up in any of the wetland areas as well?
Is that a question for me or for the other?
Oh,
members?
no, sorry. Just out to the commission in general.
Okay, yes.
Sorry.
And they're not bringing 4 inches in, right? They're just like kind of roughing up what's there, right? About 4 inches down. Is that your understanding, Tim, is how they're going to do it? Or you think they're going to be bringing in?
They may bring some new material to build up what they remove if it's not sufficient what's there.
Okay.
But my understanding is they want to make a firm, solid base for the asphalt to sit on top of. So they may have to remove some of the stuff that's there if they determine it's not, they can't compact it correctly, or if there's too many rocks there.
This is Mike. I have a couple questions. Are they going to crown the driveway so that water would tend to flow both directions off?
I'm not sure about that, to be honest.
Did they talk to you about that at all? Because that might reduce the amount of water that it actually gets kind of ends up in the wetland. I mean, would it be a very slight grade, really small? I think they do that for driveways sometimes. You know what I mean? So I can't show you my cursor, but I'm moving my cursor, but no one else can see it.
Yeah, I think I understand what you mean. Yeah, they didn't mention if they would do that or not, but they said they just showed us this plan basically that's on the screen right now, and said the foreman on site would determine what the drainage would be when they actually come do the work. But that's something that we can certainly ask that they do.
Okay. And the other comment I had was erosion control, maybe compost tubes rather than silt fence, because installing silt fence can be disruptive all by itself. So I don't know, Mary, what do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. You think in the like a 10-inch compost tube, not like the 8-inch wattles or something?
Yeah, not straw wattles. I was thinking probably as small a compost tube as you can get,
Okay.
There's not going to be a lot of risk here, I don't think, but because when they do the driveway, this is going to happen really quickly. They might be done in a day or two. So it's not like the site's going to be left open to erosion for a long period of time. I mean, I had a driveway done, and they were done in less than a day, about 250 feet. And they had to do I had, some potential vernal pools in my driveway, and they came and filled them and graded everything in a day. So.
Any other questions from members of the commission? any questions or comments from the audience? So, Mary, your recommendation was doing a negative determination with a -3?
And 6, yep.
Okay. And let's see, Timothy, would you like to close this hearing? And what that means is we would then issue the determination, and then you'd get in touch with Mary to get a copy, or Mary would get in touch with you to get you a copy of this.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we will close the hearing and we will do a voice vote. Chris, Scott, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Like I.
We have Marcella.
Marcella, aye.
And who else are we missing?
It looks like Alan's here. I don't know if he already said.
He already did.
That's an aye.
We have a unanimous vote of the commission, and Mary will get in touch with you, Timothy, about the determination and what the next steps will be. So
Thank you.
at this point, you're all set with us. Thank
Okay.
you. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Oh,
Bye.
you're welcome. Thank you. Bye. Okay, now we have a little bit of time in between now and our next hearing. So how about we go to the administrator's report?
All right. One thing that we had talked about at last meeting was 6 Fillmore Drive, which is up in North Upton, right on the border with Westboro, and there had been some complaints about stumps, etc., along the trail, and also the property there has really been cleared. And he came into the office, actually not in response to our letter because I haven't written it yet, but building department had written him a letter, and I did get to talk with him. I know we had wanted to find out the purpose of what he wanted to do with his property, and he said he just really wanted an open property. He wanted like a meadow, and I asked him if he had, although at the moment, and he says he seeded it. At least the last aerial, it did not look seeded. He did say, I asked him, well, have you had to do grading and have you done anything with stormwater? And he did say that he had actually hired a contractor to put in some stormwater basin because water from his property had been going into his neighbors. So this is, all word of mouth. And that's kind of where we left it. I never did get to look at the stormwater regs to see where he fell underneath it, but probably we could require him to do something, or at least ask for a site visit to see if what he's done seems to be reasonable. But we never did get any complaints from the neighbor about flooding. It was more the complaints about the stumps. So that was him. I've been fielding some concerns about Dogwood Drive and facilitating, and maybe I'll let Marcella talk about that under land stewardship, but some of the calls came into the office. And I can pull up my report. And just the main site visit, besides the site visits for the hearings, was just we did 5 Henry's Path a while back as a determination, and we had allowed him to build this retaining wall, and he had never filed for the pool. So this was kind of an after the fact filing for the retaining wall. We had asked him to put bounds in, and he has not done that yet. Although it looks like everything else is pretty much complete. Here's the edge of his, here's his property. There's the stream, and there were no bounds. I did reach out to him. I emailed him to see what he's going to do about that, but I haven't really heard from him. In fact, he never, after his hearing, he never even picked up his determination. It's still sitting in the office. There hasn't been a lot of action there. And the other thing is 24 East Street. I guess you guys have been seeing the emails with that. We've been asked to reopen the hearing, properly advertise it, and then issue a new determination. That was what the state asked us to do. In the meantime, Valentine has gone to the Worcester District Court to ask them to basically allow him to do environmental review on the site, and basically require the people at 24 to let him go in there to do his own environmental review. And the court date for that is August 1st. And Valentine did ask that we wait to redo the hearing until whatever the results of that court date are. So that is that. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that.
Hadn't a wetlands delineation or whatever been done already?
Yes. So yes. Yep. Yes, because we had one done. We had Ecotech do one, and actually David Crossman, who was the person who did the RDA determination originally, we had asked him to do extra work, and he did a little bit more. And then we asked Ecotech to evaluate it. So there's been several evaluations. I know just from my conversations with the state, they're not really concerned about the wetland issue. But from my conversation with Valentine, he's convinced that there's a wetland under there. And so he's going forward.
Mary, has he asked the owner of the lot for permission? Is that why he's going to court?
I don't know. No, I don't know whether he ever asked him or whether he just decided to go to court straight away. I don't know.
Okay.
Is there any reason we would need to wait till he gets an opinion? Don't we just have to open it?
There's no real reason to there's no real reason to wait, I guess. That DEP has asked us. His thought was, well, if they and maybe he thinks they will, if they allow him to do this, then we'd have to wait for the results of the whatever wetland survey is done. I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, there's 5 feet of dirt on top of the whole area now. It's all been.
Yeah, because we did have the study done and we did do all that. So my thought is we should open it and do the proper mailing and give our decision. I don't know why we would wait.
Okay. That's something that the board can consider and review.
I have a question too. I mean, is the applicant going to file a new request, or are we going to use the old request?
That's a good question. No, I think we can use the old request. I think that makes sense. But we have to the state says we have to issue a new determination when it's done.
My thought would be to err on the side of caution, to wait until the person gets his information from the state to our filing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. We have to make the advertisement tomorrow if we want to put it on the next meeting, which is what we originally thought we were going to do.
Well, we could advertise it, and then if we think it's necessary, we could continue it.
Yeah, we can do that. That makes sense.
Yeah, at least get it advertised, and then if there's some reason to continue it, we can continue it in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense to me too.
Right.
Yeah.
We can open it and continue it if we need to. Any other thoughts?
Sounds like a plan.
So it sounds like the commission is in favor of advertising it to be on our next meeting, which is August 9th.
Yeah.
What time would you like that at, Chris?
How about 7? Wait, do we have anything else on that meeting?
Isn't the VFW on the 9th at 7?
How about 7:15? Now, Mary, that would go in the newspaper. And
Yes.
then, are there any other things that we need to jump through hoops to notify the abutter about this?
No, there's no abutter notification. We don't have to do that. Just the newspaper ad.
Okay. Excellent.
And then we had written a letter to 85 Crockett Road. And he gave me a call and says he will submit requests for certificate of compliance, and that he knows that he should have a Chapter 91 permit, and he thought he had one, but he doesn't know where the proof is, and he agrees that he added some stuff that's not on his Chapter 91 permit. So he says he's gonna research that, but I don't know that. I probably should have given him a date to get these requests in, but I have his phone number now. I can give him a date. Maybe we give him like 3 weeks or something. I don't know.
Sounds good.
And that is pretty much it. That's notable.
Thank you, Mary. And how about the administrator report, Grace?
First, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. I sent them out again this morning. The first one is October 26, 2022. And then reapproving June 28, 2023, and last meeting, July 12th, 2023.
Okay, do we have any comments about the meeting minutes from October 26th, 2022?
I move that we accept them.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
I.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay.
Okay, so the minutes from October 26th, 2022 are approved. And how about June 28th, 2023? Do you have any comments? Do we have a motion to approve them?
I make that motion.
Do we have a second? Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
I.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the commission. And how about July 12th, 2023? Do you have a motion to accept them?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
I.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Marcella, I.
Mike, aye.
That's a unanimous vote of the commission. Thank you, Grace, for writing all this up. And what's next, Grace?
Additionally, it was previously discovered that it is a requirement under the Municipal Modernization Act for one board member to sign off on the expense vouchers. Kenny had been giving the board grace during COVID, but he would like us to start enforcing that again. And so Mary and I this afternoon had discussed a couple different options that we could propose. One of them being if a board member has access to doing an e-signature after every expense voucher that we have approved after each meeting, I can send it to that person. They can do the e-signature and send it back to me, or we can have a board member volunteer to come to the town hall, which I know can be inconvenient. So
Does it have to be the same board member, or could any one of us just happen to drop in and sign it if there's something there to sign?
it has to be the same member.
Okay. And we can't authorize Mary or yourself to do that?
No, it has to be a board member.
We can't have a backup person. He did say we should have one person and then maybe a backup person.
Grace, what does it entail to do an e-signature?
Well, if someone has a tablet, usually you're able to do that on most tablets. So if I were to send the expense voucher to that person, they could download it onto their tablet and then use an app to sign it.
How often,
Grace would if you send a PDF, I think it's possible to sign a PDF.
Yeah, I think so too.
I've done that before. If you have Adobe Pro, which I have, so I could sign them that way.
Okay, sure.
Or come in, or come whichever.
Sure.
I'm kind of in that, around town hall pretty frequently. So I could
Thank you, Mike.
volunteer to do it.
Thank you, Mike.
And then this week, there was no new invoices that came in. I'm sure we will get some invoices for legal ads soon. But this is our balance sheet. Again, not much has changed since last time, since we don't have any new invoices.
Does anyone have questions about the accounting?
I do have a question for general expenses. Why is the balance higher than the starting value? The starting value was 9,000?
Yes. So this last meeting, the balance sheet was the ending for fiscal year 2023, and then this is the beginning for fiscal year 2024.
Yeah, we should probably, Grace, I think I didn't get it. We'll just look at, I think we need to fix that. Yeah, well, that part needs fixing. And I think, I'm thinking the Beaver number might be from last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but Grace and I haven't really had a chance to talk through this. But.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, at this point, it's 7:30, and we have a notice of intent 144 West River Street. And Mary can read that public hearing, please.
Yes, notice is hereby given in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act that the Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public hearing on Wednesday, July 26th at 7:30 p.m. Notice of intent filed by Brian Lewis for the construction of a single-family house at 144 West River Street, Upton, Mass.
Okay, Brian, can you tell us about your project, please?
Yes, we're looking to install a driveway, a house.
Brian, sorry,
Go.
would you like me to discuss this at all? You want me to go through it?
Yeah, Ryan could start, and I'll chime in.
Yeah.
Brian, do you want to share your screen or do you want to use this?
I could share my screen. I have some other documents up as well that may be helpful. So I'll share my screen just. Can everyone see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Ryan Rosine. I'm with Goddard Consultant here on behalf of the applicant, Brian Lewis. So what the project is the construction of a single family home, driveway, and associated features like stormwater management, deck, patio within riverfront area. And then some of the other site features not within jurisdiction is pool and a new septic system. So I'll quickly kind of just go through general project, kind of go around the site. Let me know if anyone has trouble seeing this at all at any point. So this darker line here, you can see the 200-foot riverfront area. That's this darker dashed line cutting kind of through the middle of this proposed development here. So it's a proposed new driveway coming in off of West River Street here. It's going to be a porous driveway as part of the stormwater management. There's also going to be this section over here is a stone trench to help with that as well. And then there's a storm tech in the back of the house and in front of the house for the roof infiltration. Here is the main house right here. A majority of it is within the riverfront area, and the closest spot of limit of work right over in this area is approximately 140 to 145 feet from the river. I'll just kind of zoom out a little bit so you can see. So the river is here on the eastern side of the property, and there's a small BVW along the edge of this as well. So we are completely without the 100, completely outside of the 100 inner riparian zone, and not within the 100-foot buffer to BVW. And so down here, like I said, the new septic system is, kind of, it's within an existing lawn area. There is an existing dwelling up here that's going to be converted to an accessory structure. And this existing lawn area is going to be where the new septic system is. There's an existing one further to the south. We are proposing about 500 square feet of mitigation. It's this portion of lawn that's currently lawn within the riverfront area. And so we're proposing to plant that with dogwoods and low bush blueberries, if those are available. And if not, other native plants that will get approval from the commission. So this site is also within priority habitat of rare species. So we did submit a project checklist review with Natural Heritage, and that was completed. And I had sent a copy of the letter to Mary, and you guys should have received a copy anyways, but I'm not sure if you did. But this is it right here. So the site is listed for wood turtles, and I'll quickly just kind of go to what they determined. So they determined it must be conditioned in order to avoid a prohibited take of the species. So they wanted a couple of conditions to be met. And so if we abide by these conditions, then we meet all the standards under MISA and any of the wildlife related performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act. So I'll just go down here to the list of actual conditions. So it's a turtle protection plan, and then to record this letter as well as the site plan at the Registry of Deeds. And so basically, I'm not sure if any of you know about a turtle protection plan, but I can quickly go through that if you'd like, what kind of that generally consists of. It's an entrenched silt fence around the entire limit of work, so no turtles can go in or out. And so the silt fence is installed prior to any tree clearing, any disturbance in the site. And then myself or other qualified biologists will go in and sweep to make sure there's no turtles in there. And then once we confirm that, then they can, begin work. And then it's regular inspections to, ensure that the silt fence is properly maintained and to make sure that no turtles are harmed during the construction process. And I'll quickly go back to the site design. And so the silt fence would end up going around the entire limit of work. And then also just on the detail sheets, this is mostly for the stormwater related features, the storm tech systems and the porous driveway and things like that. So that's basically the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Right, in that letter, did it say something about time limits of when the work can be done?
So no, there's so the work has to be done within 5 years, or else we have to go back to them, to get approval again. So with the turtle protection plan, what you're maybe referring to here is between April 15th and October 15th. And so that's considered the active season for turtles, because the wood turtle is presumed to be in the water during the winter time. That's where they overwinter. They overwinter in the streams. So they're not going to be on land. So during the winter time, basically between October 15th and April 15th, so over the winter and, early spring, they can leave the entrance to the construction area open, overnight and over weekends and things like that. And they don't have to really worry about turtles getting in because they're going to be in the water. During the active season, that's when it's more important to, close the gate every night, and over the weekends, any, long period of time where people aren't going to be on site, and to be doing the regular inspections to make sure turtles can't get in.
Okay, thank you.
And one other thing, we are also proposing adding some bounds along the riverfront, like the limit of work. So you see one right here. It's kind of to mark the limit of work. Permanent sort of barrier, kind of visual. One here, and then one over here and one over here. So it kind of acts as a visual permanent barrier, once everything is completed. And so there's the concrete bounds that we're proposing.
I have two other questions for you. Did you get a DEP number?
Yes, we do have it. I don't know it off the top of my head. I can find that. I can get that to you though. Although one was issued.
Okay.
I believe Mary might have said she has it.
Yeah, it's 8:10 and they had no comments.
Okay. And did you get your green cards back?
Yes, I did. I sent Mary just before I sent proof of the abutter notifications. I can pull those up as well. I have a digital copy if you need them. But
thank you.
So you emailed them or you mailed them?
I emailed a copy of the certified mail receipts to you just before the meeting, actually.
Right, I'll check for that.
Mary, do you have any comments for us?
Yeah, maybe Ryan, you can stop sharing and I can share my screen. Right, so I went down to evaluate the wetland line and just the mean annual high water mark delineation. The river is very high right now because of the rain, so there was some mean annual high water mark flags that were within the river, but I assume that was because the river is very high right now. It's just showing a few pictures of the river. And this is the one situation where the water level was 8 to 10 feet back from the mean annual high water flag, but right about where the edge of the BBW was, but it's very flat here and the river's definitely in flood stage. There is a woods road along, kind of, that goes along the river. And Brian, I had a question for you. Do you plan to use that for vehicles, or is that just mainly like a walking path?
Once we enclose the silt fence area, we intend to work within that area. Or do you mean future use?
Yeah, just in the future, once your house is built.
I have used it before to move a tractor through, but I don't know if it was you I've talked to about that, and I don't think there was really any issue. So, I mean, if that's appropriate, on occasion, maybe I would use that to transport, a small piece of equipment, compact.
And the outlet to the road on the north side, that's off your property, right? Like, so the woods road kind of goes mostly through your property, and when it actually hits West River Street, it's not quite on your property. Is that correct?
No, actually, it's entirely on my property.
Is it entirely on your property?
It does go right to the border.
Okay.
There's like a stone wall and and then a dropping grade, between 1 foot and 2 feet, depending on the area.
Okay. All right. So my main other comments, and Brian and I have talked about this, is they're using the maximum extent possible disturbance in the riverfront area. And they have done an alternatives analysis, stating that they, couldn't really do anything else. There are some limitations with some ledge and stuff closer to the street. And then there is the 50-foot setback for just the building code. This area here is kind of the flat area where he's hoping to put the house. It does seem to me like you could potentially move it maybe 10 feet. You probably would get into the zoning variant, is it needing a zoning variance? But it's something the commission could ask him to consider. I know our planner happened to be around when I was looking at this, and he's like, oh yeah, they should apply for a variance. That was his opinion, but that was just, his opinion in the office. So of the alternatives, I think you couldn't move it a lot, but you could potentially move it some to get it a little bit further out of the riverfront area. It's something the commission might want to consider. This is a picture looking towards, an existing tank and some rocks this is the highest point on the property. This is showing the existing house on the property, and I believe the leach field would be going in here. And Brian, is this in the shed? Is this in the area that you were planning to kind of remediate a little bit?
Yeah, it seems like about 1/3 of that shed is in the resource area.
In the riverfront area, right?
Yes, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so you were planning on moving the shed completely out of the riverfront area?
Yeah, we would move it, or, it's really nothing special. It was existing when I acquired the property. It's pretty much made out of pallets. So either remove it or, move it forward, probably approximately 3 feet.
Another issue I brought up with Ryan, and he had a good answer for that, is if you look at the plans, the flood line from the FEMA flood map goes, right up close to the house. And it, you kind of look at that line and go, why is it there? Because there's a 30-foot drop between the house site and the river. And, obviously it's a FEMA flood map kind of issue, but Ryan was able to provide a surveyed plan done by a surveyor, which actually gave the flood elevation at, I believe, 269, which is much lower than where the flood map line is. So I felt better about not having to provide compensatory storage for that. Then I had the bounds got me thinking about the bylaw, and I completely thought, oh yeah, what are the bylaw issues here? But this lot is not subject to the bylaw. because the older house was built before 2004. I was a little, just thinking, oh, new house, we have to look at the bylaw. But because of the existing house, that's not the situation. Yeah, so those were my main comments, is just to think about the alternatives analysis, and if the applicant should maybe consider moving the house a little bit to apply for a variance. Other than that, they've done a good job. I appreciate the stormwater supply and trying to keep that as well contained as possible. And I guess one other concern was, and I'll see if I can go back to the plans, was that it's a tight envelope between the erosion control line and the house. And I am a little concerned that excavation work in there, and I did talk to Brian about this, may damage tree roots that are, between, trees from here, that the roots extend into the no disturb area, so that the disturb area might actually be bigger than what appears on here. It's a very tight envelope. He's going to have to be very careful. This is the maximum he's allowed of riverfront disturbance, because of the 10%. So that was.
Can I comment on that?
Yep.
Okay. So first off, it's conveniently placed within an area where there are really no substantial trees. That's the first thing. The second thing, the actual layout of the foundation and the grading of there's basically circulation around the house for a pathway. It's pretty much laid right into the contour of the land, where really there's zero grading past the overdig of the foundation. And the steps are placed on the grade as it naturally is. And, the soil is basically structural. So, there's really no excavation to place the stairs. There's like zero grading past the foundation. The only thing that would have any concern is the overdig, which, it looks like it's approximately 15 to 20 feet in all areas past the foundation. So, there's a deck on the side of the house, but the actual foundation where the walkway is, where you're pointing, is, to the silt fence is about 20 feet. And then where the garage bumps out, I guess you do have, Ryan, you call it Storm Tech, Coltech, the drainage system, which would pretty much, that's in the driveway, but in the back of the garage, I'm sorry, on the riverside, yeah. I believe that really doesn't have to go too deep. That would probably be the most concernable area of excavation, which is, you just have to have it below grade a little bit. But again, there's no substantial trees. It's kind of the whole knoll is open past that silt fence. So, and that's kind of the reason that, Mary, when we had a discussion in your office, that we proposed the mitigation in case there was any compromised vegetation. I wouldn't say now, but I think your concern would be down the road, correct? If you dig a root, and how does that tree sustain 3, 4, 5 years later? You weaken the ability for it to anchor itself, would probably be the biggest concern. And fortunately, there really are no large caliber trees in those areas at all. You noticed that, right, Mary?
Well, that's why I was bringing up the other pictures. There are a lot of trees, and like this picture here, and I did not actually stand on the line of the corner where their stakes are. But for example, this little shed thing is probably outside of your construction area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is either a corner of the house. These are the corners of the house, or they're the 200-foot line. I'm not sure.
I believe that's maybe a front corner of the house. Oh yeah, so the back corner, yeah, to your right. So
this is looking towards the river, so we're looking straight towards the river at the flat house area.
It's looking a little diagonally towards the river, not directly perpendicular. But
right.
Like that tree that you have your cursor on is that's within the construction zone. So
right, yeah, these are going down, and but it looks like the woods is pretty thick in here. That's just why I mentioned it.
Yeah, where the woods are thick, that's where the house is. But you know, past that tree line where that duck house is, it's kind of open in the knoll. And you know, I was studying it the other day, and I really did not see any trees really within 15 feet of the silt fence on the riverside. So I don't think, I understand the concern, but you know, now that it's laid out and you know, it's just kind of by coincidence, I didn't really see us disturbing any main roots of any trees. Now, trees do have roots that can travel 30 feet sometimes, and we may touch upon those, but anything that would be considered, you know, a supply of water, substantial supply of water, nutrients, or an anchor to the soil, I just could not see that. So that's the first thing. Yeah, like I said, the second thing, there's zero grading past the foundation. Everything, all the stairs, the layout of the house, the elevation of the slab, the elevation of the top floor was carefully considered, you know, to almost look like that house grew there like a mushroom, you know what I mean, in the woods. It's just there's minimal impact or disturbance. And we can finish on that. I did want to also just touch base on your comment on potentially moving it forward, but I want to finish this subject if you have you know, more input first.
Yeah, whatever.
Questions or comments from the commission?
Okay. You know, if we rewind to your statement about the water tower, which we would do everything in our capability to keep and use, that's the highest point of the property. And moving forward, there's a very substantial grade change, which, you know, as we talked about, was there's some substantial outcrops of ledge. You know, moving forward and then cutting, we'd almost be undermining the water tower. And I really would like to do everything possible to use that and not compromise it. And then also there's, you know, you move forward, there's very large rocks. It would take substantial blasting. We kind of took very careful thought into as and where we thought the best option to place the house would, and what would require you know, the least amount of resource to put that foundation in. So I can review it, but I mean, I've kind of been visualizing this for over a year, and you know, Ryan did an excellent job helping us kind of turn this all into fruition. But you know, besides, you know, getting a variance, which I did talk to the planner, and he did say, you know, you could potentially, he was forward with of doing a variance, but he also said he didn't think there was anything really abnormal with the existing plan, and he thought, you know, there probably could be a potential that this layout, you know, would be approved. So I really would like to not kind of move into that grade, because it's the grades, they're much more drastic. If you can see the grade lines on especially on the side and between the existing lawn, and you know, the grades wrapping around the water tower, and then, you know, there really are no pictures, but you look in the front yard and there's like boulders the size of, you know, small structures, and you know, with outcrops, which I think would really have a big change in what would be required to do our excavation. But you know, that's all. I just kind of wanted to, you know, just kind of share some of my thoughts, and you know how we came to this you know, thought of how we would place this.
So Brian, the way you had this laid out, would that have the least disruption to the area rather than moving?
Yeah, actually, by quite an amount. You know, if you could see the knoll there, basically we just cut through the knoll, and the garage would come in one side, and you could walk out to the other end by the patio. And especially on the riverside, the only disturbance would be the actual dig for the foundation wall, and there would be zero grading, you know, zero change of elevation, you know, on the riverside. And moving it forward would probably be either really compromising the circulation, which, being as I wouldn't have a backyard, I would like to have, you know, a pathway around. It almost would be comparable to, you know, we'd ask for extra area just to kind of grade and correct, you know, the back of the property to make it work.
Hey, Brian, I have a question for you. I hadn't looked at this. Do you have a deck over here as well?
No, that's not a deck.
Okay.
That would just be, you know, just a straight walkway along the whole back of the driveway, the back of the garage and the back of the deck. We would propose a, you know, just a permeable masonry unit, like a paver, and much like the bound, that would be a fixed point between the house and the wooded area. There really would be no reason that anything could encroach from that point. You know, the bound is just another measure that, you know, we just felt might go well to propose.
Do you have any questions or comments from the commission?
It's Mike. I have one very generic question. This has really not much to do with your filing, but did we check to make sure this actually showed up in the newspaper? Brian, we had a problem recently with providing the Worcester newspaper with our information, but it didn't get published, and it's become a big, huge issue because of an abutter. So I'm just wondering, do we have now a protocol to double check that our
the proof, Mike?
Yes,
I received the proof for
okay. So that's kind of going forward.
I didn't even think to look. Yeah.
Okay. Then the second thing is it has to do with the bounds. Who's got the cursor? Is that Mary?
Yeah, that's me.
Hey, like draw a little line between well, back where you were, between next one lower, that bound and the next. No, it's there. This is really maybe nitpicking, but there's if you assume that you connect the bounds, then there's a small area which is not protected, right?
Of riverfront area, right?
Yeah, and that happens a couple of times. If you go further up, it happens. That's a good example. See,
Right.
and then even if you go further, all the way to the top, the last bound, go to the left. There's no bound there, but that's riverfront line, right?
Right. Yep. That's the riverfront line.
So I'm just wondering. I don't really want to ask you to put in more bounds, but I'm wondering if we could somehow ask for a plan or an as-built which explains that those small areas are supposed to be protected as well.
Yeah, that would be
I'm
no
not
problem.
exactly sure how to go about it. Maybe Mary or your engineer has some ideas, but they are. If you look at it, if they add up, to to a measurable area, because it's almost. See, I said 1, 2, 3. At least 3 cases where that if you just go between bounds, you've not protected some riverfront. That's it for me. Oh, I guess the other thing is just if the commission's going to be discussing this at all, but I personally would not be in favor of asking the applicant, to go to the zoning board of appeals. I'm satisfied that the impact really can't be reduced any more than it has been.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? How about from the audience? Mary, at this point, are you satisfied with the information?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll ask the applicant if you would like to close this hearing, and then we would draft an order of conditions that Mary would have, and she would let you know when that's ready.
W. Ryan?
Yes. Yep. That would be correct. Yeah, we would like to close the hearing and have a request to issue an order of conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. So, do we have a motion to close the hearing from the commission?
So moved.
So moved. Sorry.
Okay, so do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, and that's a unanimous vote of the commission to close the hearing, and we'll issue the order of conditions, and Mary will let you know when they're ready.
Yeah, Chris, I just want to have a comment with that. I know Brian and I have been talking a lot, and he would really like to get started as soon as possible. I had told him I would try to draft an order for tonight, but that unfortunately didn't happen because I've been busy. Would the commission be okay with me drafting an order early next week sometime? And, I don't know if you're okay with approving it conditionally ahead of time, as long as you have a chance to review it. I don't know how you feel about that. I know to add the natural heritage conditions, and we'll have our standard conditions.
I'm okay with that. As long as we get a chance to review it.
Although I would, will you add somehow a condition that reflects the bound issue?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will send it out before I actually issue. Give you guys a few days to review it.
Do we have any commission members who are not in favor of this? So Mary, it sounds like we're all in favor of you drafting up the order of conditions, and then we will email them back to you if there are any questions or concerns. So with that said, I think we're all set for this hearing. Thank you, Brian and Ryan.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Mhm.
Okay, now doing our 8 o'clock notes intent, which is continued for Governor's Landing.
Okay. I think I'm here. Madam Chair, are we ready to go on Governor's Landing?
Yes, we're all set, Sean.
All right. Thank you very much. For the record, I'm Sean Malone from Oak Consulting Group, representing the applicant. With me is Patrick Gardner. Just to give a quick update on what's transpired since our last meeting a couple weeks ago. We've had the opportunity to meet with Mary and Dave Pickard, your peer review agent, to discuss some of the issues and resolve some of the issues of the project, discuss some of the potential conditions. We think we've reached a consensus on that. And if I may, I'll just quickly walk through the changes to the plan since then. So this is the grading and drainage plan, and one of the big changes we've made with this plan was adding these 50-foot long guide walls on either side of the wildlife crossing, both on the upstream and downstream ends. This would just be a 1 to 2 foot high stone farmer's wall. We've also added a note at Dave Pickard's recommendation to make sure we fill all the voids in that wall to prevent any migration through that wall, to guide the the critters, if you would, through this wildlife corridor. So we've made that plan that change on the plan. This has been submitted to the commission. We've also received the peer review comments from the peer review engineer, and those were really boiled down to two things. One, there was a discrepancy on the grading of the cul-de-sac. This is outside of the jurisdiction, but still part of the plan. And that was just the grading to match the plan view to the profile in this area. So we've gone ahead and made that change. And there was one last change that was requested, and that had to do with the stormwater analysis and these reaches that are coming from the stormwater basins, to make sure that those match the HydroCAD calculations. We revised the HydroCAD calculations to make sure the plans coincide. So all that has been submitted early this week, a complete set of plans, stormwater study, incorporating all of this commission's comments, the planning board's comments. So we think we've had a final cohesive set of plans and documents that have responded to all the questions, concerns that we've received to date. So at this point, I think I want to just turn it back to the commission to see if there's anything further that we want to discuss.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Mary, do you have other comments?
Yeah, Dave was working on this, and I feel like we've seems like everything was discussed satisfactorily.
Okay, Dave, what do you have to say?
The design now incorporates a fairly significant amount of measures to minimize impacts to the organisms utilizing the vernal pool, especially understanding that no work is being proposed within the 100-foot buffer from the vernal pool envelope. I would recommend that in order, one of the special conditions be that the applicant prepare and submit a monitoring plan for the vernal pool that includes at least 2 reference vernal pools, one of which should be in a similar hydrogeologic setting. The other one, actually, I think it'd be interesting for contrast comparisons to have it be, in unconsolidated material. But that's up to you folks to decide the details.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Any questions from members of the commission? Or in the audience?
This is Mike, if no one else has any comments. I might be inclined to ask for 3 reference pools rather than 2. And the other thing, someplace in your plan, monitoring plan, you should have some procedures to prevent contaminating your reference pools, biologically, if you know what I mean. Because there are a couple of pools that I've suggested to David. I don't know if you passed David and Mary, I don't know if you passed them on, but neither one of those pools has ever been monitored before, and they're kind of one of them is quite remote. I just wouldn't want the fungus among us to be transported into these pools. Is that acceptable, Patrick? Probably doing the monitoring.
Yeah, Mike, I'm curious why you'd want to have 3 reference pools. I've done a huge amount of vernal pool monitoring, and frankly, it's not unusual to have a reference pool. I sort of was pondering Dave's comment about having one in consolidated and one in unconsolidated, and I can see how that makes sense. But I'm curious about why you were thinking about a 3rd pool.
Well, just in general, for environmental sampling, in my experience, 2 isn't a very good, is not the best number. If you have a problem with one and not with the other one, where are you? I think it's useful to have a 3rd that might kind of arbitrate between the 2. Rarely would I take like 2 samples for chemical analysis if got any kind of budget, or at least do 3, for example. That's just chemistry. So, I mean, it's up to commission, but I would actually prefer 3.
So, Mike, while we're talking about this, what sort of monitoring are you thinking of? Also, what if we could drill down a little bit into the details? What are you envisioning?
Well, that's for you guys to propose, but obviously, be done during the spring, count egg masses, that sort of thing.
Right.
Maybe some studies of the hydrology. I don't know. Maybe install a piezometer in each pool.
What I've traditionally done is I've put in gauges.
Yeah.
That's easily visible for anybody. You can, just see what elevation they are at a glance. And I've also usually when I'm doing monitoring, I sample for dissolved oxygen and pH, just sort of as a benchmark. And typically the monitoring is at a minimum is done in the spring during breeding season. But sometimes I'll go back 4 months later because we're looking for a certain hydro period and, make sure the pools are still containing water. But it seems like, Dave, I meant to pull it up before this hearing tonight and I've been out in the field all day, but we did a draft monitoring proposal about a year ago, which I know I sent to you. That we can pull that up and get that to you, maybe Friday this week or something, to sort of revive that discussion. But it would be helpful to know how the commission feels about 2 versus 3 reference pools. And I guess the only other concern I have is distance and accessibility. Every additional pool you go to is going to be more time and more documentation and more expense. And since I do this, I'd love to have 8 reference pools. But at some point, you hit a limit where your client pushes back and says, "What?"
Yeah. Leaving aside the number of pools issues, just something that occurred to me. We had a filing not too long ago that caused me to look for methods to basically measure the intermittency of streams. And I think, and there are these monitors that you can build to basically, they will tell you whether or not it's dry or not, the situation is dry or not. They've been used quite a few places. I can give you the paper that, the seminal paper on that technology. It seems like that would be great to apply to vernal pools. I don't think they cost very much. It would basically tell you, when it dried out, in the summer or late spring. And especially since, we're sensitive to this, the pool that's being potentially impacted.
Are the reference pools you're thinking about certified?
No, neither one is. I just had a couple ideas. I know of one that's almost certainly perched on bedrock. Yeah, I think it's big enough. It probably, is going to support obligates, but it's not certified and it's never been sampled. So, I mean, you've got this spring coming up to check out these pools, and you might want to even have a couple backups if you go to a couple of these pools and you're not finding obligates. I think part of the plan should be you need to at least demonstrate the first year that there's obligates there. So you might want to have several backups.
Are the ones at Cobblestone accessible? Cobblestone Creek, whatever, that over 55 development that's being built off of North Road. And yeah, because there's 2 out there. One is not perched by bedrock. The second one may or may not be, but we know those are pretty productive. And they're fairly close by, and provided that, access isn't blocked by ongoing construction, they're pretty easy to get to as well. So, there's the one. And I think the other one you're talking about is where at Peppercorn or
it's near Peppercorn.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one too.
That really is perched, that one.
Yeah.
I have a question about the development. Maybe Mary are they done blasting there? Because they blasted the hell out of that area.
Yeah.
Travelers Creek. Well, I
Yeah.
think they've cleared, there's 2 areas that they've cleared, and they haven't started clearing the 3rd area. They haven't done no tree clearing or anything, so I don't know if they're done or not.
Yeah, it might be worth checking that out. But you'd hate to, and those are nice pools, but you'd hate to have a situation where you're monitoring a pool and then the blasting. The other thing is that at that site, there's going to be there's a private water supply system, so there's going to be wells. I mean, we've had some discussion about whether or not the vernal pools might be affected.
That's a good,
affected by the wells there.
That's a good point.
So,
yeah,
I would leave it to the, we have a couple suggestions. We might come up with more, but I'd kind of leave it to the applicant to maybe come up with a total of like 5, and then select whatever the commission wants, either 2 or 3 of those to go forward with, based on what you see this first monitoring season next spring. I would think. You plan on, is that what you'd like to do, is do monitoring next spring?
Yeah, that would be our first opportunity. Yeah, Mike, I don't think we have any objection to the multiple reference pools, but I would be much more comfortable if these were pools that the commission specified. I mean, you know Upton far better than we do. You know what pools are productive. You know which pools are accessible. We don't have any of that information, and we would like at this point to sort of wind this up and move along through this process. And I don't know that we're in a reasonable position to sort of play that role.
Okay. Well, I think there are some other people in town who've certified a lot of pools. I mean, we can first look at the pools that are certified. There's several in Upton State Forest that have been certified, within the last 10 years or so. I don't know if that you have to get permission from the DCR to do that type of work on their property.
I would hope they would allow it.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering. I mean, it's another a little hoop you'd have to go through. But I would, we can think about some more. And I know someone who's done a lot of the certification work, and I can ask him. He's got some ideas. But a lot of the ones that he has certified are on state forest property.
Okay, well, I would presume that those would all be accessible, and I agree with Dave. I think given the context, I would hope that they would be on board. We wouldn't be doing anything that would be a detriment, I would presume.
Well, if they're not, I'll volunteer to send an email to the commissioner of DCR because it's state land. It's not necessarily their land.
Probably there's not much chance they're going to say no, but there's a fair chance you're not going to get an answer for
that
geological time.
But
I think maybe the way to tie this together, because what we were hoping was that we could have the hearings closed tonight, and that we'd be able to work with the commission over the next week or two to get draft special conditions that we could play a role in if necessary. But because we're now 7 or 8 months out of breeding season, out of spring of 2024. I could envision a condition that stated something to the effect that the commission and the applicant would work together to determine reference pools, and the commission could approve that 60 days prior to monitoring or something like that. So we have a window of opportunity here so that we're not in trouble. We're not under any pressure.
Yes, I can't speak for the commission, but I envision that just a condition state that a vernal pool monitoring program will be submitted and finalized prior to, or 60 days before the start of vernal pools breeding season.
We're on board with that. That's no problem.
Do you have any comments or questions from other members of the commission?
And Dave, you were recommending doing that monitoring for 2 years, you said?
I think a minimum of 2 years, yes. Ideally, until the project is finished.
Yeah, my memory of the draft proposal we had submitted some time ago was that we were going to monitor for 2 years after construction was finished.
That sounds.
So I mean, the monitoring could go on for 4 or 5 years. And
That's. We think alike.
Do you have questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none. Is there anything else, Mary or Dave, that you'd like to get information about?
I have no other comments, Chris.
Okay. So with that said, Patrick and Sean, would you like to close this hearing or at this point?
Yeah, I'm going to turn this back over to Sean.
Yes, I think we'd like to close the hearing and ask the commission to direct staff to put together an order of conditions.
Okay, with that said, on the commission's point, do we have a member of the commission who would like to close the hearing? And then we'll issue an order of conditions.
Chris, before you officially vote on that, we would ask again that if the commission is on board, that we be given the opportunity to see a draft of the special conditions before it's signed by the commission.
Okay, definitely, Patrick.
Okay, thank you.
So do we have a member of the commission to vote to close the hearing and issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, aye.
Marcella,
aye.
Marcella, aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the commission. And what we would do is have Mary draft up an order of conditions with the special conditions that we can view before our next meeting, and also have a copy of that sent to Patrick and Sean and Dave.
Excellent.
Okay, and we thank you immensely for your patience. This has gone on for quite some time. So,
And did what would be the hearing date for the review of the conditions and vote?
Would that be the 9th, Mary?
Yep, that's the next meeting.
Right. Our next meeting is the 9th of August. So I'm sure that we all may have a draft or conditions with the specials indicated before that time.
That would be excellent. And again, appreciate the commission's time and consideration of this project. It's been a good process.
Well, we're happy that it's turning out to be positive.
Yes.
Okay, so we're all set with this meeting for now.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Dave.
All
Bye,
right.
Dave.
Okay, so we're going back to Grace's administrative report. Did you have other things to mention?
I don't have anything else, Chris.
Okay. How about open space committee?
Excuse me, Bill. The only thing I have to report is that the Gail man, who's doing the appraisal of the Reed property and conservation restriction, is starting or doing the site inspection on July 31st.
Excellent. And land stewardship committee.
Yeah, well, first off, we had a meeting with some folks from SVT. Mike and Bill were on that call, and we were discussing the Mechanic Street property. And, still want to confirm the trails, and we discussed the parking area, which is likely to be on Fowler Street. So that's kind of the update there. Unless Mike, Bill, did you want to add anything? I take that as a no.
Nope.
And then this is kind of, I'm not sure it even makes a huge difference to us specifically. I walked some properties in Westboro. You see our open space. Tom Dodd and I were representing Upton. And, DCR is considering these properties, and Westboro is active in trying to get them protected, and DCR seemed quite excited about it, and so there may be some more acreage added to the big parcel, the DCR collection of parcels up there off of this would be off of Westboro Road. But it's very close to the Upton border, and it does connect to trails in Upton. So that's kind of a happy thing. Mary and I went over to the Dogwood Drive open space parcel that abuts number 7 Dogwood Drive. The resident there had concerns about people coming through and possibly trespassing on their property. Mary and I went in to confirm what the property boundaries were and what the open space parcel entailed. And we looked at the trails in there, which look like they are not, the trails, if the person or the people who've been using the trails back there have been sticking to the trails, they have not been trespassing, as best we can tell. There were some other concerns about a particular individual who was using the open space parcels. And I think that we've reached an understanding with him about some of the regulations concerning off-leash dogs and use of those open space parcels dawn to dusk. We will be discussing this at the land stewardship meeting, but we would probably be putting up some signage to indicate where the trail is. I'm thinking that we might just put trail markers along the trails that are on the open space parcels, and just to keep the public stuck to the trails, and put up a sign with our regulations on it. And hopefully that will help keep people on the open space parcel. Mary, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I thought that sounded good. I think there was a little bit of confusion among some of the people who like to use that area as to where the town land ended And now they know that there is no cut through between that section and the 2 Dogwood area, that there's private property in between. And I think, yeah, it was a good, productive discussion.
So we will be going back there, when the land stewardship committee will be doing that, but we do have to vote, to do some of the work there, and I think that there was some talk about a survey, which I don't think is necessary on our part. I think if the private property owner has a desire to have a survey done, then that's up to them. But the trail really seemed to be off, far enough away from the property boundary that I don't think a survey would give us, give us information that would suggest otherwise. So anyway, we'll keep you posted.
Excuse me, could I interject a little bit? My name's Cindy Alexander. I live at 7 Dogwood Drive. I don't know if this is the time for me to speak or if I should wait.
Yes, go right ahead, Cindy.
Hi. So, as Mary and Marcella are well aware of the issues that I've had with the one gentleman in particular, there are several issues that are going on behind my property and others on my street where trees have been cut down, teenagers have lit fires back there. We found like marijuana paraphernalia out there, and several other issues that the police are now aware of. But this gentleman in particular is accessing the conservation land from railroad property, from Plain Street. And the concern here is, number one, that he's got this motorized bike that I found out from the neighbor whose dog he walks, goes 22 miles per hour. He flies through these woods, through the wetlands, tears up the earth with this motorized scooter. I've sent pictures to the police, so you can reference those. I also gave Mary some pictures of them. But our concern is to potentially put up some signage that will prevent people from accessing the conservation land from Plain Street train tracks or Station Street train tracks, because for lack of a better word, that's where the riffraff is entering from. And I don't know, I know that the railroad, I spoke with somebody at the railroad company today who's rather upset that I'm not really sure what the verbiage was as far as what was said to this man, but it was, I guess he inquired about accessing this land from the railroad tracks, and something was said to him along the lines of that's at your discretion or at your own risk or something along those lines, rather than him being told, that's private railroad property and you're not to be accessing that land, the conservation land, from the train tracks whatsoever. So I don't know what can be done as far as, signs or barriers or whatever it is that would prevent people from entering there.
There's signs there already.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 very tiny signs from the railroad company that say no trespassing. But what I'm talking about is signs on the back of the conservation land facing the railroad tracks that say something to the effect of no conservation entrance in this area, like the entrances elsewhere or on Dogwood Drive or whatever, because that I have spoken to one of the officers, one of the police officers who has offered to go issue like a no trespassing or a restraining order against this gentleman. But I'm trying to keep the peace and not stir the pot too much. And I would prefer it if it was just a a blatant sign from the Conservation Commission stating that this is not the proper access area.
Well, we'll put, I'll have it on the agenda for the next Land Stewardship Committee meeting, and we'll discuss it at that
Okay.
point.
Terrific. And when is that meeting?
It is it's the first Thursday in August. I don't have a calendar in front of me. I think it's the 3rd.
That's sufficient. I can figure it out. And what time? And is there a Zoom? Like, how do I access information about this meeting?
It'll be a virtual meeting, and you can access it through the town website. When the meeting is posted, the link will be posted on the town website under the meetings.
Okay, terrific. Thank.
Was that the first Thursday of August?
Yes, it's the first Thursday.
Okay, so that would be August 3rd.
This is Mike. I just have a question. Going back to the railroad's permission, to use the access from Plain Street at your own risk. Is there something in writing about that? Does anybody have that?
No. That wasn't the railroad company that said that. Somebody said that somebody from the Conservation Commission said that to this gentleman when they did the site walk in my backyard.
Cindy, I just would like to make a comment that you probably got that from talking with me. I'm not sure that was ever specifically said. So there's nothing about that in writing, and he knows the where the property lines are. We showed him.
Right. But I had asked you, and you said that something was said to him to use his, enter at his own risk, or that's his own liability or whatever. But my issue is that that's private property. He's taking this motorized bike from the railroad tracks straight through the woods. And by the time he gets to my property, he's going 20 plus miles per hour. And he's got a dog off leash. The dog breaks leash into my yard. My boys are terrified of dogs. And this person has been a disturbance in our lives for the last 7 years. And it's only seeming to get worse. And I'm trying to do what I can without making major waves to get this gentleman to understand that he cannot access it. And from my understanding, based on our conversation today, Mary, he was not told he absolutely cannot enter from that area. And from what I understand, this man needs a black and white rules as far as where he can and cannot go, because as he expressed to me, he's been doing this for 49 years and has no intention to stop. So I'm just trying to prevent this motorized thing flying through the wetlands, through my backyard, and shooting out the bridge.
Just to be clear, we didn't see evidence of any damage to the wetlands, so I don't know.
Okay, so all right. So I have pictures that I provided to Mary of the damage that he did in my side yard. It's been quite a while since I've spoken to him, and since he's come up with, since he's spoken to the conservation, like we spoke to him and then he had to wait for a Conservation Commission meeting. And then we've had tons of rain, and it's been over probably 2 months since he's accessed it, because we spoke to him and he was waiting to speak to you guys. So if he continues to access it, you will see the damage. It's just that it's all rained over right now.
Okay. And just also to make a point, when we walked it with him, we didn't really see any evidence of damage to the trail any more than one would see, with normal trail use. So
yeah, you will. You could see the picture. You could see the picture that I gave Mary, but it's very apparent in the picture. And if you want to know, if you speak to the officer that was here investigating when the inappropriate signs were put on my property, and when he was flying through on that bike, there was very clear damage then. I just think there's been so much rain that it's not evident right now. But if he were to do it again, I will gladly contact you and you guys can come out and see the damage that happens when he does it. It's just, I am looking for definitive signage on the railroad side of the conservation land saying this is not an access point to access the conservation land.
Okay, well, we'll have that under discussion. And I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, but I think Mary and I were both satisfied that when we spoke with him, he understood pretty clearly, no dogs off leash. In fact, I don't believe he's walking that dog anymore. And he, knows the property boundaries now. And he seems to, I think he wanted to be heard out, and we, wanted to hear what he had to say. And I'm hoping things will ease up for you. And I don't think that they're going to have to deal with, the dog going through the yard or anything. He's not going through your yard, and I think that he's, he understands that, keeping to the trails is what he needs to do. So,
okay,
but let's hope things, resolve peaceably. And thanks for your comments.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you at the stewardship meeting.
Okay, thank you. This is Chris. I was just mentioning that at this point, having the discussion at the land stewardship meeting would be very good. And if the person needs to have something in writing, black and white, that's something that could come from land stewardship or the commission, where we would tell them in black and white what is and is not, what is allowed and what's not allowed for accessing these areas. And I do not know what the railroad may or may not say about this, but I know they've always had that comment that if you're walking the railroad tracks, it's at your own risk. But I don't know if that's in writing somewhere.
Yeah, no, there's the railroad company actually put no trespassing signs at the entry point at Plain Street and at Station Street, stating that there's no trespassing there.
Okay, great. So, any other questions or comments about this topic? And at this point, after the land stewardship meeting, we can possibly, with land stewardship or the commission or both, can provide a black and white written letter talking about this topic.
Well, we do have our regulation signage, which will be posted, and that's pretty. It's brown and white. The sign is white lettering.
Yeah, I still think
pretty much everything that we were addressing with him. I think a lot of that is addressed by the regulations, and he has been made aware of the regulations. I don't think he was aware of them until Tuesday, and now he is. So we're hoping that seeing those he was. I know that somebody at the meeting had a copy of the regulations printed out, and there it was in black and white. So.
Yeah, I had printed them out actually, and highlighted them. I just if there's anything I could get in writing, or that could be, documented on your end, stating that you do not condone access from the railroad tracks, where between the signs that the railroad company has posted that say no trespassing, then that would be helpful.
At this point, Cindy, what I think would be very helpful for us is that since that meeting on Tuesday with this person did occur, if you see him doing any of these things that have been discussed, let us know and let the police know as soon as possible, because then we'll
Will
know.
do.
It
Yep.
may not.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thanks.
But please let us know if you see anything that should not be occurring at this point.
I will. Actually, all of the neighbors on my end of Dogwood Drive that, whose land abuts, that conservation area, we've all put cameras up now, unfortunately, because of this gentleman. So I'm sure that you will hear from more than just me if he violates.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
And what we can do now is, do you have anything else under ongoing items to be discussed?
I would like to note that we had looked at an order. I had put a draft order of conditions together for the Robertson Conservation Area Bridge for last meeting, and people were supposed to look at that and see if there are any comments. I didn't hear from anyone. Are we ready to just go ahead and issue that? I don't know if people got a chance to look at it.
You have that available to pull up, Mary?
Yes, I do. Give me a minute here. You guys see that?
Yes.
Yep.
I think at the beginning, it's mostly standard conditions. I was going to drop the as-built requirement for this bridge. People thought that was okay. And then there are the natural heritage and endangered species conditions. Other than that, it's pretty much standard.
Does anyone have questions or comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept this order of conditions and the specials?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, aye.
Sandy, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Mike abstains.
Okay, it's a majority of the commission has voted to approve these. So thank you, Mary, for writing these.
And just one more comment. I think we had sent an email, and my guess is that there is nothing, but we realized that the minutes from last July and the first meeting in August, when I wasn't on board yet, and there was no Trish and there was no Dave. We don't believe that there were any minutes done for those, or there are no minutes that are on the website. And at this point, we don't believe we have access to the recordings because it's been so long, which is a problem. So if anyone knows anything, if anyone happened to take any notes.
What dates are you talking about?
So July last summer? I know you did the June ones, Mike.
Oh, well, I'll look to see if I did July.
Okay, so there's.
I'm sure I provided whatever I was supposed to provide.
Okay.
but so it's July you're looking for. It's both
July meetings? And the first meeting in August, because I didn't start till August 15th.
We can take a look at the agendas for those meetings and probably piece something together if we don't have anything, recorded.
I know I attended the last two of those meetings just kind of informally, and I did take some very sketchy notes on a piece of paper. So I'm going to give those to Grace to work on. But if anyone has anything else, they're very sketchy. But if anyone has anything else,
Grace's smile says something like, "Oh darn! Why?
Can start something."
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you. It might
You're
be
doing
very
a really good job. We appreciate everything you're doing, including this. So,
okay.
Fill in the blank.
Anything else under ongoing items?
Oh, did anyone look at the bylaw for town meeting? I didn't get a chance to look at the bylaw.
No.
Okay. We'll put that, and I just reached out today to find out when the deadline was for the warrant.
I have a question about Five Forks Farm. Did we ever receive or request a cross section for the pond? You know, I mean, during the discussions, I asked several times if they were going to line the pond with clay, and the answer was always kind of yes. But I'm just wondering if normally when you build any kind of structure like that, if an engineer builds it, there's going to be a cross section. And I just wondered if the NRCS actually ever came up with one.
They did send final plans after we issued the order, and I will look at those to see what they
and if you could just share them around, send them around to everybody, or to whoever wants them. I mean, it looks like I don't have any problems with what's going on, but I'm just curious, what they're ultimately going to do. They picked a really, really, really wet June to try to construct a pond. I kind of feel sorry for them. It's just, this is the either first or second wettest Junes, the period beginning in 1951.
Yeah, it was just I was talking with Grace, and she said the slow, like they're not working right now, or they weren't. He's having machinery issues, so the machine needs to be repaired. That's what's going on right now.
I just can't catch a break.
No. Yeah, at least she doesn't need the pond right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unfortunate the way the weather turned out for that project.
Yeah. And the other thing you can see, I sent a photo around today. They have a lot of rock to bury. I never would have imagined the slabs, huge slabs of rock that they've uncovered that they have to lose somewhere else. Yeah.
Hey, can I just mention something about the meeting we just had, Dogwood Drive?
Yes.
I got the impression she wants us to sort of police the railroad track crossing. I don't think that's what we should be doing. I think she should call the police or something else, but I don't think as a commission we should be involving ourselves in railroad property. The people on Plain Street or Station Street are obviously going to cross the tracks to use that. They are not going to get in cars, drive around, go in that neighborhood, park the car and walk. They're just not. So, but it's not something that I think we should involve ourselves with. That's my own personal opinion.
I agree with you.
I feel similarly, and I just wanted to bring it before the Land Stewardship Committee so we could air that out. But my opinion is along the lines that you're thinking, is that, the railroad can police their own property.
I agree too. I do have one question. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. The only thing we could do was just put up a sign that said where the entrance to this trail is, and not, don't enter here or anything like that. You just say trail entrance XYZ,
I have a feeling it would be ignored.
What I was going to suggest is that somebody asked the railroad to properly post it, because I don't know, I might want to check this, but I always thought no trespassing signs had to be like at 50-foot intervals or something like that. It doesn't sound like they're at 50-foot intervals or whatever the interval is required. It might be worth checking that and asking the railroad to post them every 50 feet or 75 feet or whatever it is. And then, I mean, if they're properly posted, then if people are still crossing the railroads, then I think it would make the police their job easier, you know, to say, hey, it's posted properly, you know, you're trespassing. Yeah.
Right. And it's not our property to post. So
that's right.
It really is, this is between the railroad and, you know, I think a lot of the folks on Plain Street abut the railroad. So if they're coming from their own property onto railroad property, that has nothing to do with us, you know, that, and then if they happen to be coming in from the railroad property onto town property, I'm not sure that has much to do with us either. But I think it's worth a discussion, and we can bring that up at the next land stewardship meeting. And Tom, you're welcome to join us and share your opinion. But we know what your opinion is, so we can express that.
Well, you're welcome to use my name if I can't make the meeting.
But yeah, this situation is more complicated, you know, unless you've actually had an opportunity to speak to the individuals, you know, in person and in more detail. It's really hard to pass judgment on what's going on here. So, you know, I feel for both parties. They both have valid issues. So. Anyway, yeah, we'll deal with this.
Do we have any other questions or comments? So, thank you, Mary and Grace, for all the work you're doing for us. We appreciate that a lot. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?